This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, friends, in this Business Intelligence Master Program. So in today's session, we are going to talk about data flows. In data flows, so we are going to talk about aggregations and a derived column. So these are the two transformation that we are going to see today. Okay, so aggregations, how to do in data flows. Next, how you can add the new column in the data flows. Okay, these are the two things we are going to work on today. Fine. So in today's session, we will learn scenarios and what is data flows and mapping data flow actions. What are the different transformations we have in data flows? Again, I will discuss once again before we start today demo. Then we are going to talk about estimations, prerequisite and required resources. With respect to the demo, we are going to see we will create data lake storage Gen 2 because I will just keep all my data in data lake storage Gen 2. So why I have selected data lake storage Gen 2? The reason is most of the people are going to use data lake storage Gen 2, not blob storage or data lake storage Gen 1. But you know, if it is a blob storage or data lake storage Gen 1, you just have to create the linked services for those storages, and you know how you can create data sets. So once you have linked service ready, it will be easy for you to create data sets. Okay, so which storage I'm using doesn't matter, but mostly most of the people will use data lake storage Gen 2. So I selected data lake storage Gen 2. Then we are going to create data factory V2. So then we need to create the linked service for ADLS Gen 2 using key vault. Okay, I need to read my username and password from the key vault. Otherwise, what happens if I hard code my username and password? That is not secure. Next, we will create data sets, pipelines, and then we are going to debug pipeline or run pipeline. So if I'm going to run a pipeline, I will just schedule it. So with the help of schedule trigger, I will run the pipeline. Then finally, that run details you can able to monitor. Okay, you can able to monitor a execution of pipeline. Fine. So scenarios. So today we are going to see how to read and write data in data flows. So by using data flows, how you are going to read data, how you are going to write your target, like your output after applying the different transformations, you will get the output. This output data, how you are going to write it into the your destination in a data. Okay. Next, deriving new column in data flows. So we are going to talk about deriving new column in data flows. How you can add the new column. So for new column, you need to populate the data. How you are going to populate the data for new column. So we are going to put some kind of a condition. Based on that, we are going to add the new column. So we will see how you can do that. Then aggregations on data flows. So we are going to do aggregations. So I have shown you group by. So I hope everybody know in like last session we talked about group by, partition by. What is the difference between group by and partition by? So joins, all those things in detail we discussed, right? So because those things is important with respect to the data flows transformation, because you need to understand how the data will change when you apply this transformation. This is visual, right? So you will not come to know how this is happening in backend. So that's why, so I just explained with some visuals, some data I have taken, and I have explained in detail how this group by, partition by, joins, all those things will work. Next, we are going to see create new branch to use same data set for other transformation. Let's say here, so for deriving new column, I am going to use the same data. For aggregations, I am going to use the same data. So now what you are going to do is you will create a branch. Branch is nothing but if you want to execute two things parallelly, what you are going to do? You are going to create a two activities, right? In the same way here, we need to create a branch. Branch means there are two set of flows you are going to define. These two set of flows are going to consume same data, same input. These two flows will take, and first flow will do adding new column, second flow will do aggregation. Okay, we will discuss in detail, do not worry, but you just try to understand what is deriving new column and aggregations. Then turn on data flow debug, because you know, right? So I have explained you previously in last session. In data flow, each transformation result, if you want to preview, you need to have a data flow debug turned on. What it means, you are going to create the Spark engine in the back end. Okay, once this data flow debug is turned on, means your cluster is up and running, so you can able to preview the data from each transformation. So configure data flow activity in pipeline. Now what you wanted to do, I have created the data flow. This particular data flow I want to execute from the pipeline. So this particular data flow I want to execute from the pipeline. How you are going to execute this particular data flow from pipeline? What activities you are going to use is, there is an activity called data flow activity. That activity we are going to use to execute. Okay, we'll talk about that as well. Let's see, so what is data flow? Data flow or visually designed data transformation in Azure Data Factory without writing any code. Visually you just have to do some kind of just with the help of visual options, with the visual design options, you are going to create all your transformations. Data flows allow data engineers to develop data transformation logic without writing code. We are not writing any code, just we are using visual designer. The resulting data flows are executed as activities within Azure Data Factory pipeline. So how you are going to execute this transformation? In a pipeline, you have a data flow activity. By using data flow activity in a pipeline, you are going to execute all these data flows. Okay, so where these particular data flows will execute on Spark cluster. When you turn on data flow debug, like a Spark engine will create it back. Next, data flow activities can be operationalized using existing Azure Data Factory scheduling, control flow, monitoring capabilities. Right? So like you can just, you are going to use the data flow activity to execute your data flows, like the data transformations. Now this data flow is available in a pipeline. So when it is available in a pipeline, you can use all the features of the pipeline, like scheduling pipeline. That is nothing but you are ultimately indirectly you are scheduling your transformations. So you want to control some flow, that you can able to do by using if and filter. There are other things, right? So that's how you can able to control, you can schedule, you can monitor all data flow activities. Next, mapping data flows provides an entirely visual experience with no coding required. So we know we no need to write any coding. Your data flows run on ADF managed execution cluster for scaled out data processing. What is managed execution cluster? We are going to use the Azure integration runtime to execute our data flows. Azure Data Factory handles all the code translation, path optimization, execution of your data flow jobs. So right? So code translation means you from your visual transformation, it is going to generate the code in backend. This code again we need to optimize this code. Path optimization means which transformations should execute first to get the better optimization or better performance. So we are going to do that. Then finally we are going to execute that particular code on the cluster. That is what will happen in data flow jobs. You can design a data transformation job in a data flow designer by constructing a series of transformations. So how you are going to create data flows? With a series of transformation. First transformation maybe I want to select some columns, then I want to add new column, then maybe I want to reduce the number of columns, then I want to do some kind of a group by. So group of transformations, I'm just going to add, like series of transformation is nothing but your data flow. So all those things I discussed, that's why I'm going a little bit fast, but whatever is new, I will just go a little bit slow. Whatever is something we discussed already, I will go a little bit fast. Okay. So see, in today's session, what we are going to do, so transformations overview, you can see, this is my data. This is the data I'm going to use for today. Okay. In this, so please look at the data and tell me what is the total score of Kohli. What is the total score of Kohli? Please check how many matches he played. See, there are 3 matches, 1, 2, 3 matches. You can see match. First column is match. Second one is player ID. Next you can consider as a player name. Next you can consider as a player score. So now I want Kohli. So total score of the Kohli. Can you tell me what is the total score of Kohli? You can check 20, 10, 25. How much, friends? How much? 30 plus 20. So 55. So total score of Kohli is 55. Something like that. I want to do like for each player total score. I want to get it. That is one transformation. Second transformation is I want to generate the email IDs for all these players. So first let's see how to generate the email IDs to all these people is. So I'm going to add the new column. So for that new column, so I'll take the like name of the player and I will add @cloudpandit.com. That's how I'm going to add the new column. Like see here, player mail ID I have added here to the existing data. Existing data is having only 4 columns. I have added 5th column, that is player mail ID. So to this player mail ID, I just adding @cloudpandit.com to the player name. So that will form a player mail ID. So kohli@cloudpandit.com, abd@cloudpandit.com. So something like that. I generated the mail IDs to all the players. So this is my first transformation by using derive column transformation. I'm going to do this. Next, what I want to do, I want to apply some aggregation. Aggregation means maybe you want to understand the total matches played by Kohli, total matches played by Sehwag, something like that you can understand, or you want to understand the total like sum of the scores. Maybe you want to understand max of each player's score. So what is the maximum score of each player out of these 3 matches? Okay, or you want to understand what is the minimum score of each player out of these 3 matches. So you want to understand all these things. Let's say we will try all those things, but let's say I want to understand the total score of each player. So you need to sum up all those things and you need to generate output something like this: player name, total player score. Yuvraj 215, Sehwag 135, ABD 95, Sachin 175, Kohli 55. So I want to generate something like that. Okay. Understood, friend? So this calculation is something different because I have not calculated exact values, but if you sum those values, you should get the exact total value, whatever you get. So when you sum these values, whatever value you will get, those values I want to populate here. Okay, everybody understood, friends? Okay, see, but I think I calculated correctly only. Kohli 20, Kohli 25, Kohli 10, so total 55. You can see Kohli score is 55. Next, let's focus on Yuvraj's score. So Yuvraj, here you see 100, here 50, here 65. How much? So his total score is 150, 250. So that's correct, right? So I just summed all those each player's score and I'm getting. So how you can? So I'm going to read this particular data from data lake storage Gen 2, and I'm going to write this data set into, maybe you can say, output folder, and this output I will write it into output 1. This is in output folder, this is in output 1 folder. So but to get this, you need to use some kind of you need to do some transformation. To get this, you need to do some kind of aggregation. That is nothing but again transformations. Okay, so how to do this we are going to see. Okay, overview diagram. See, first I will read the source data, then I will pass it to the something called derive new column transformation. Okay, so there are a lot of options, that's why I am not giving the overview like what all things I'm going to configure. I will just included the activities. So source, I will just read the source data. So I will add the new column to the source data whatever I read. Then so added the new column means when I am added the new column, I am going to find, I will just derive how I need to populate data for this. So I will take the name which I'm receiving from the source. To that name I will just concatenate @cloudpandit.com. That's how I'm going to add the new column. Then this output I will write it to the maybe output folder. Okay, add new column sync. Sync is nothing but my target, source data, sync data, right? Sync data set. So sync means my output I will write. Now what I want to do, whatever data this activity has received, same data I want to take another copy. That is nothing but a new branch. Whatever this activity, like this transformation received as a input, same input I want to pass it to my new branch transformation. So in this new branch, from this new branch I will take the data, I will apply aggregations. Aggregation means I'm going to use the aggregate transformation. In this aggregate transformation, what you have is you have like you can tell based on what column you want to apply group by. Okay, then what, like based on what you want exactly, you want count or sum or max or mean. So those all aggregations you need to configure within this. Then this final output you need to write it into your sync. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Everybody is clear, friends? So source data, so same source data I'm going to use for this transformation, but if you want to use same data set which this particular transformation is using, you need to create a new data, new branch. When you create new branch, same data will be passed in this particular flow. So now you have this is a separate flow, this is a separate flow, but these two flows are consuming same source data. Understood? See, I just included with activities. You see, it's a player CSV file, then player mail ID. I added the player mail ID. Then I have written the sync. Then I have taken like same data. Basically, I have taken same data here when you create the new branch, that I have done some kind of aggregations. On this aggregation output, I have written to my sync to. Okay. This is what I have done. So now we need to execute the data flow which I have created, right? So how to execute is you need to create a pipeline. I have created the pipeline. In this pipeline, go to activities, go to activities. Inside activities, you see something called data flow. You just bring that particular thing into your canvas. In this data flow, you just select which data flow you want to execute by using this data flow activity. Okay, that is what you need to do. So, but to execute this particular activity, you need to turn on this data flow debug. So here you can see this is very important. I turned on, right? So you need to turn on this particular data flow debug. Everybody is clear on this front. So this data flow debug you need to turn on. Clear? Next, mapping data flow actions. We discussed all these things. So these are the multiple input outputs. So join will take multiple inputs. Conditional split will take one input and it will give multiple outputs. Exist will check whether data is existed or not. Union, multiple inputs it will take and it will combine the data. So it is going to look up data on like your source streams. Okay. Like next we discussed about schema modifiers like a derive column, select, aggregate, surrogate, key pivot, unpivot windows. All these things we discussed in our previous sessions, so I just included. So in today's session we are going to focus on derived columns and aggregate. Okay, derived columns and aggregate, but ultimately we are going to learn all the transformation, but today we will understand how to use these derived columns and aggregate. Okay, fine. Next, mapping data flows. Like if you want to sort your final output before you write it to your destination or before you apply any transformation, you want to sort your data, you can able to use sort or filter, all those things we discussed, but we are not using any of this today. We are going to use only two things. One is derive new column and new branch, that is the second. Third one is aggregate. Okay, those three we will use. Estimations, you know how many linked service, because my input data, output data, I want to write it into the data lake storage gen2. So I'm going to create a one linked service. How many data sets? So depends on reference points. Suppose I want to write my output data into same folder, then I can use a one data set. But if you want to write your output to two different folders, then you need to have a two different output data sets, because as per our overview diagram we have seen one single input I'm taking and I'm applying two different transformation, and that two different transformation output, if you want to write it into a single folder, you can have a output data set, single output data set. But if you want to write it into two different folders, then you need to have a two different data set, output data sets. In the same way, in this particular case, we are going to have a single, like one input data set, two output data sets. Next, how many data flows we need to use? How many data flows we need? One data flow we are going to use. How many pipelines we will use? One pipeline. What type of fire we need to transform data in data flows? What type of fire we need to use? What type of fire we need to use to transform data in data flows is Azure integration runtime, friends. Okay, what type of fire it is? Azure integration runtime. Yeah, everybody is clear.
Yes, Malaya.
Okay. Okay, now you understood, right? So we need to use the Azure integration runtime. Let's move on. Prerequisites. So we need to have a understanding on what is Azure Data Lake Storage into Key Vault, Azure Data Factory, Azure Data Flow Debug. So Data Flow Debug is the, like when you turn on this, you will have a cluster ready to execute your data flows. So schedule trigger to schedule your pipelines. What is linked service data set activity pipelines? All these things we discussed in detail. Required resources are data lake storage gen2, Azure Key Vault, and Azure Data Factory v2. Let me go and create these three resources, friends. Okay, let's do the lab now. Okay, so I am in the portal, so you know how to log in into the portal. So first let's create our storage account. Go to storage account. Let's click add to create the storage account. Like let me create the new resource group, create new. can say cloud Pandit. Click copy. Come down. So storage account name I can say cloud Pandit. ADLS V2 store. So you know V2 means we need to enable the hierarchical namespace. Enable hierarchical namespace. Click review plus create. Let's create it. Here, let's move on portal.azure.com. So now let's create data flows, data factories. Inside data factory, we are going to create the data flows. Okay, just click add to create the data factory. This is the resource group. Wish to use anything is fine. Let's say cloud and ADF V2 1221. So I'm going to give the today date. Git configuration, we will configure it later. Click review plus create. Click create. Click create. Now come here portal.azure. Let's create Azure keyword now. Okay, click on keywords. Click add to create the Azure keyword. So resource group is same resource group, keyword name cloud AKB 1221. Access policies. Let me add my data factory name. Click add access policy. Give full permission. Click selected. So which data factory we need to select here? ADF V2 1221. Yeah, this is the one. Click select. Click add. Click review. Running final validation. Let's create it. Data factory, storage account, both are ready. Let's go to storage account. Go to access keys. Okay, show keys. Let's copy the key, the hide key. Come back to your Azure keyword. Let's wait for 10 to 20 seconds. It will be available. Then we can store the secret. Okay. So once we have done with storing the secret, our task will be finished. But meanwhile, let me just open my data factory and just open data. Let's open data factory. Go back to your keyword and keep it ready. Okay, it is available. Now go to resource. Click on secrets. Click generate/import. Also here you can say ADLS Gen 2, or you can say ADLS create it. Okay, create it. Now open your let's go back to your storage first. Okay, click on overview. Click on containers. Click on container. Say I'm creating input container. I'm going to create the output container. Then I'm going to create output one container. So total I have 3 containers. Go inside input container. Let's upload the CSV file. But what is the CSV file I am going to upload? Let me show you. Click on data flows. Click on ADF V2. Sorry. Cloud Connect data sets. So okay, let's open this See here, this is the data I'm going to use. Okay, this is the data I'm going to use. Everybody's clear. Please look at the data. This is important. So this is the data I'm going to use it. Okay. Okay, this is the file I will upload now. Come here, click upload. Let's click here. Go to custom, select it, upload. I just upload. So I'm done with the my source storage as well. Like whatever I need to do with respect to the storage account keyword is completed. Let's go to your data factory. Now we know first thing that we need to do is we need to click on manage. So before I do anything, so let me just start data flow debug because it is important. We know, so it will be minimum 1 hour. Okay, if you are going to enable here. Okay, otherwise if you are not enabling this, if you're directly running your data flows from the pipeline, cluster will create on the fly and it will execute your job and it will terminate immediately. So but I want to keep my cluster keep running for 1 hour, then you just select whether you want 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. Just select 1 hour. This is more than enough for us. Click OK. So because meanwhile your Spark cluster will be available in backend. So now let's start creating all the linker services, data sets, all those things. First, let's create a linker service to your Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So this is the Gen 2. Click continue. This is your, you can say, source DS for Azure Data Lake Storage. Source, or you can say player CSV data. Player CSV data. So we are going to use auto resolve integration runtime. We are going to use account key enter manually. So I need to read the Azure key, like my key from the Azure keyword. Okay, let's create a linked service for our Azure keyword first. This is the ls for Azure keyword. So select subscription is this, Azure keyword is this. Let's test the connection. Connection successfully created. So nobody is telling it's not a data set, right? It's a linked service. You can say ls for ADLS Gen 2. So from subscription enter manually. So Azure keywords. So I'll just select my secret. What is the secret name? ADLS key. Copy this and paste it here. Now I need to get my storage name. What is my storage name? My storage name is this one. Come here. You can say https .dfs.core.windows.net slash test connection. Connection successful, you can create it. Okay, let's publish all because this linker service, Azure keyword linker service, whenever you create, immediately you need to publish. Okay, so I'm just publishing, that's okay. Let's come back to the author tab. You can see here, this is a manage and this author tab, you know, right? So just click on author tab. Now let's create 3 data sets, new data set. This is my first data set. Okay, select data set, continue, CSV file, continue. This is your DS for ADLS Gen 2 player CSV data. Player CSV data. You can use the existing linker service. Then you need to select that particular file. Let's select this particular file. If you have multiple files, you can use the wildcard. That you can use same thing here also. Okay. First was header because we have headers in this CSV file created. Let's click new data set. So it's a Gen 2, click continue, CSV, continue. This is basically DS for ADLS Gen 2. You can say this is basically add derive call output. Okay, deriving the new column output. Okay, so this particular first output, first row is at the first output. I want to write it into the output folder. Click OK. Okay, click OK. Now let's create a new data set. This is also for Gen 2. Select Gen 2, click continue. CSV, click continue. Successful. Okay, aggregation output. I want to write it into my second folder, like output one folder. Okay, let's select output one folder. Click continue. Click OK. So I have now 3 data sets. You try to understand. Okay, I'm just making everything simple. That's why whatever way we know, we are going in that way. Okay. So, but you just go and do everything on the fly in the data flows. But I don't want to do everything on the fly in data flows because you are very well known like how to create linked service data sets. So that's why I just created those things individually. Now let's go to the data flow. I explained you there are 3 ways to create data flow. One is you just click on this and you can create the data flow. Second one is you can create the pipeline. In the pipeline, when you create a data flow activity, it will ask you want to use the existing or you want to create a new one. You can do that. Third way is just click on this, click new mapping data flow. But now you see your data flow debug is turned on already. Now let's click on this new mapping data flow. For angling data flow, this is not a like transformation. This is just a preparation. Okay, copying data, all those things you can able to do quickly with the help of templates. But data flow, select, click data flow because we want to do some transformation. See, when you create this transformation, let's say here you can say df underscore okay, derive spelling mistake here, also spelling mistake. Let me go back and change it. Derive okay. Now come here, let's do something. Derive call what I want, deriving the column and aggregation. Okay, so this is what we want to do in this particular data flow. So first you need to select the data flow. How to select data flow is in this box, you just click on this. Once you click with your cursor, okay, so it will show source. Okay, cancel this. So you need to configure source. So this is your source name. The source name is, you can say my input data, or you can say something. Okay, input data. This input data, it became a input data. Now you want to get input data from some Excel file or something, or you want to get it from the like a data set. So I want to get data from the data set. So I selected the data set. But if you want to get directly from some file, you can able to do that. Okay. But I am using the data set. Next, data set. What is the data set? My source is, this is my source data set, whatever data set you have created. Okay. Other things, yellow schema drift, inferred drifted column types, validate schema, all these are going to validate the schema of your data. Okay, so whenever some schema has changed, it will not tell you. So do not worry about this schema validation and all those things. We will discuss those things in upcoming sessions. Okay, now leave everything blank. Okay, let's go very simple today. First thing that you need to do is come to source option. See, if you just selected the input folder in your data set, if you want to use wildcard path, you have this. Okay, so now see, very important is projection. Go to projection. See here, so match is not a string, so it's an int. So these things you need to correct whatever data flow you are using. Okay, player ID, this is also int. I will mark it as int. Player name string. Okay, player score is again integer. So Okay, this is what I need to define the format. So if it is integers, you specify format. If you have any format, so you can just give. Okay, but I don't have any format, so whatever format it is coming, let it be in same format. Okay. Now this is the first thing you need to do. Next, optimize. Optimize also we'll discuss in upcoming session, but today I will explain little bit. These basically what happens is, let's say you have very big file. Instead of writing very big file, let's say 100 GB file into 100 GB data into a single file, you want to use multiple files. So you can set partitions. Let's say if you set partitions to some 10, it will create 10 files. If you want to set it to single partition, it will write the data to a single file. Okay, use current partitions means by default data flows will take some partition count, because this is an Excel Spark, right? Spark will consider some default partitions. So you want to use the default partitions, then you can go with current partitions, but this is not recommended. You need to go with the set partitions. So based on your requirement, you need to, like, based on your this particular Spark configuration, okay, Spark cluster configuration, you need to set the partitions in Spark. But here, if you know the Spark like cluster configuration, you need to set it. So what we will do when we have small data, we are going to set it to a single file. So I will show you this at the end of today's session. We are going to execute the data flows again with a single partition. That time I will explain. But for now, I am just using the current partitions. Inspect. So inspect, it will just tell you the number of columns which you are getting. Okay. Next, come to data preview. So in data preview, so you want to preview what data you are getting, what columns we have in this. Just click refresh. So it is going to create a Spark code in backend for this particular source data, like spark.read format, whatever, and it will fire that particular code on the Spark engine. So it will just read the data and it will show you here. So let's see those things now. Okay, because we have data flow debug already turned on, it will not take much time, do not worry. See, so like you can see the total columns are 15. All these are the new columns which we need to insert. Okay, you see 1 1 2 2 3 3. You understood total columns are 15 because we have 5 people, like 5 players. So 5 players played 3 matches. 5 into 3 is 15 records we have. Good. Now, how to see other transformations is, you have a plus, right? Just click on that plus. See, you will see here multiple input outputs, whatever I mentioned in our slides. Next, here you see schema modifiers. All these are the schema modifiers. Row modifiers. All these are the row modifiers. This is our sync target. Okay. But what we want to use, first we want to derive the column. I want to generate the mail IDs for all the people. So use the derive column. Just select derive column. Okay, this is the derive. Just here give the output stream. I can say this is generate mail IDs. Okay. Now for this particular transformation, what is the source? Source is input data. Input data means whatever data we read it by using the source data, source stream, that particular data I'm passing as an input to this derived column. See, input stream is nothing but what is the input for this particular transformation? What is the output stream name? So meaning, what is the name of this particular transformation? Okay, like a equal to 10 plus, let's say you have something like this. You have a equal to 10. Now when you say a equal to a plus 10, okay, so you are just using this input stream here. Okay, you are doing some aggregations or whatever, deriving new column. Final output you are assigning to b. So here b is here. This is nothing but a b. This is nothing but a. Incoming stream means a. What is the input? Output stream means to which variable you need to assign, something like that. Generate mail IDs. Okay, something. Now I need to add the columns. So how many columns you want to add, those many you can add, no issue. Okay, but here let's say single column we will try to add it. How to add is, you need to tell the column name. What is the name of the column? My column name, I can say player mail ID, isn't it, friends? We need to add a player mail ID. So how to how to populate data for this column. Just click on this, click open expression builder. Okay, now I will just minimize the screen because this box is very small. Okay, so I'll just minimize this. I'll just minimize this. Yeah, so just 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, not more than that. Okay, otherwise let me just do something like this. See what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a concat function. You see concat. Okay, so concat function you have, just to select this concat. But how this concat will work? See, when you keep this cursor here, you will know, you will come to know how it will work. When you say data flow is awesome, so you will get here data flow is awesome. When you say data flow plus is plus awesome, right? How you are getting data flow is awesome, right? In the same way, when you add these 3 strings to this concat function, it will just combine all those things in the same way. Now for this concat function, so I'm just selecting. When you select, now you see when you select, it will come here. Okay, let's click concat. So it came here. Now in this concat, what all things I want to concat is, first I need to consider player name. So this is the column name. So from that particular column, I will get the data. Let's say when you are adding here player ID, player mail ID, what happens? So I've just done concat of player name. So for this particular row, player name is Kohli. So here it will come Kohli. So here it will come concat of, here what it will come, concat of, here what it will come, ABD will come. Okay, ABD. So something like this, it will come in a string format. So now what I want to do, for this, I want to add here at the rate cloudpandit.com. In a single quotes, I want to put the at the rate cloudpandit.com. You understood? This is what I want here. So for this, the player name I have added. Now I am going to put a single quote here. In this single quote, I will say at the rate cloudpandit.com. Okay. This is how I'm just adding simple. Okay. Understood, friends? How I am adding, everybody understood? Okay, so this is a simple way. I'm just adding the new column. Now let's come to data preview. Okay, let's go to the inspect. See, the player mail ID column is added. For the existing 4 columns, this 5th column is added. And now go to data preview, just click refresh. So before it comes, just come to input. You see output side we have 5. So but input side, just to go to input. See, input side you received only 4 columns you got as input, but output you are sending 5 columns. You see, you are sending 5 columns. Okay. Now go to data preview. Let's wait. So now you see player mail ID. How it is coming? Kohli@cloudpandit.com, ABD@cloudpandit.com, Yuvraj@cloudpandit.com, Kohli ABD. So something like that. This is the easiest way to add the new column. Okay, but you just have to use the different functions to apply different conditions. Based on different conditions, you are going to populate the data. But this is the easiest way I explain. Okay, now just this particular data, I want to write it into my sync. How to write it into sync? Click on sync. So this is the target. So this is what, this is your sync 1. Okay, let it be sync 1. So but for this sync 1, what is the input? See, incoming streaming generate mail address. This is the, this particular transformation output is going to be the input for this particular transformation, like sync. So you want to use, you want to refer any, like you want to write it into Snowflake or something, or you have created already data set to tell you, or like to tell where to write the data. I already created the data set, so I just use the existing data set, that is derive column output. I need to pass it to this particular data set. But if you want to create a new data set on the fly, you can create, you can see here new. If you want to open this data set, you can open it. Okay, so all other things we'll discuss. Now go to data preview. So same output you will get, because we are not modifying anything in this sync. We are just getting whatever data we are taking from the previous transformation, same thing we are writing. So even if you preview here, it will be same. See, same thing you will have. Same thing will happen. So now come to inspect. You will have same optimize. So use current partitions I'm using. So now in this mapping, right? Just let's say auto mapping. So uncheck this auto mapping. You will come to know how many columns it is writing the data. See, like you have 5 columns, so it is matched all these 5 columns to the 5 columns in the output columns, meaning these 5 columns it is reading from source and it is writing to the sink. You can see, so you can enable auto mapping. Sometimes auto mapping may not correctly map, so you uncheck this and preview once whether everything is mapped correctly or not. If everything is fine, you can keep it auto mapping, or you can enable auto mapping, or you can disable the auto mapping. Okay, this is the one flow. But whatever data received by this particular transformation, same data I need to use for other transformation. Just click on this. See, I am using here to consume the data which is received by this particular transformation. Click new branch. Okay, click new branch. See, when you click new branch, go to new branch. Okay, go to new branch. Okay, so same data will come here. What data you are getting here? You see input data. Okay, now this input data, same input data, yeah, same input data. What I want to do, click here. I want to aggregate. Let's click on aggregate. Okay, so as of now, you just check how the data is coming. Like you need to apply the aggregates. Let's apply the aggregation. So what kind of aggregation is it? Is total score. Total score per player, why, or you can say for total score for each player. Okay, this is what we are calculating. Now how you are going to do? Group by what, friends? Let's say come here. Now we discussed all these things in detail, but if you forget or something, you try to understand here. I want to group by what? Can you tell me, anybody? I want to sum up the each player score. Then I need to group like based on the player name. So all the Kohli record I need to group it into one. All the ABD records I need to group it into another. Let's say all Kohli records. Let's say here I'll just put it here. This is one group. When you say group by player, all these records will be a one group. All these records will be a one group. Okay, next group is ABD. Next group is here ABD. Here second ABD. Here we have a third ABD. Okay, so likewise for each player there will be groups formed when you group by player, because wherever you have a group name same, those people, like based on that particular value it will be grouped. Okay, now what I will do, I'll just say group by, just click on this to get group by player name, isn't it? We want to group by player name, but on after that what you want to aggregate. So once I group like this, I grouped based on player name. Now we want to sum this scores. What is this column? This column is a player score. So I want to sum this player score. I will say sum. Okay, you can just click open expression builder. Here it will be easy for you to do sum of, just bring the sum function, click on sum function. So in this sum you need to pass, player score, just to pass the player score. Click save and finish. So I just doing the sum, but you need to give the column. So let's say when you just sum it, you need to rename it, right? Let me just explain you here. If you remember, 1 second. Yeah, so here you look at here. So see, here you have two columns. One is player name. Player name will come because group by player name. Now you want to give the name of this column. If you're not giving any name, it will come as sum of same name will come. So that's why I don't want that name. I want to rename. Then you need to come here. You need to say here total score total score. Like this is my column name. My second column name is total score column. My second column name is total score. Okay, this is what I want to do. Now, yeah, just click on this. Okay, now come to data preview. Let's click refresh. Sorry. Yeah, so here you can see, I don't know how it is muted. Fine. Have you seen, friends, how I have created the pipeline? Everybody understood how I have created the pipeline. So I have created the pipeline. And I'm just dragging the activities. Okay. So when you just drag the data flow activity, you can see using existing data flow, you want to execute this pipeline or you want to create a new data flow. I want to use the existing, that is this is the one which we have created. Click OK. Yeah, just click on this. See auto resolve integration runtime, which is already running. This cluster is already running on this. Okay, so by default we talked about these things in previous session. It is a 8-core cluster you will get. Okay, 8-core node you will get. It's a single node basically. So single node means single node which has 8 cores. This particular like cluster you will get, that will be executed in backend. Okay, fine. Yeah, you no need to do anything because we don't have any parameters to pass. Now click publisher. Just click publisher. Let's see if it is published. Fine, then we can debug this particular or like pipeline. Okay, let me go back to the storage, refresh this, go inside output folder. See, you don't have any data. Come back, go inside output one, check you don't have any data. Okay, we are good. Now come to pipeline, it's published. Now I want to debug. Click on debug. Go to output. Let's see, data flows is running. It is just started. So it may take some 30 to 40 seconds, not more than that, because your like a debug is already turned on, otherwise it will take some 6 minutes, but you have already turned on this data flow debugs. It will take less than 40 seconds. We'll see how much time it is going to take. Yeah, so it took the less than 40 seconds, that is it took 34 seconds, and the data flow activities finished successfully. Now come back here, refresh this folder, go to output folder, and let's verify. So see, these all are the, so this is the committed file. So this commit file will have how many source data files created, all those information you will have. So this is the file which you have the data, but this particular file will have information about this particular file name. Let's open this particular file because I have not completed Spark for you. So you can see here, this will have, see, this is the part file which is added. Okay, and when you see started and success, these are the empty file just for the transaction. See, it's a 0-byte files. There won't be any content, just to tell transaction started at this time, this particular transaction is successfully executed and written the data. Now open this particular part file, it will have a data. Click edit. See, it has a player mail ID is added everywhere. It has written. Okay, this is done. Now go back to your output one. Let's go back to output one. Let's see, there are a lot of files created. The reason is it is creating multiple partitions. Let's see, in each file when you open, you will see one record or something like that. See, here you will have only column names. If you click on this, maybe here you will have your first record. So it is doing something like this. The reason is you are not controlling the number of partitions, right? So that is the reason why you don't have data in some of the partitions. You have data in only some of the partitions, right? So here you have one data. Now I want to change this approach. I don't want this particular transaction files, and I want to write my data into a single file. Okay, this is very important interview question. People will ask how to write a, when I have small data set. See, it is not recommended when you have a large data set, but when you have small data set, so how you are going to write data into a single file? So this is the question that many people are asking in interview nowadays. So please look at that. Okay, so I don't want all this transaction file, but I want to write my data into a single file. For that, go back to your pipeline, open your data flows. When you are writing sync one, so come here and you need to make some settings. You need to change. Come to settings. See, file name option. So default, how many partitions we have, you are writing into those many partitions, right? I don't want that. I want to write my output to a single file, output single file. So when you are saying output to single file, you need to give the single file name. I will say derive full data.csv. It's a full data.csv. This is my file. So when you tell like single file, you come to optimize. Here you need to make sure it's a single partition, because when you have multiple partitions, it will create multiple files, but when you have single file, it will create single partition. That's why single partition you need to select. Now there is no error here. Now come to sync 2, go to settings. Same thing you need to do here also. Output to single file. See here, I will say total score.csv. See, when you say like this, see here in above, you can see output to single file request, say single partitions to be selected partition type. This setting may impact performance, should only be used for small data set. See, for smaller data set, this particular behavior you need to select. That's what this particular message. Now come to optimize, you need to select single partition. Now go back to settings, that error is gone. Okay, with these changes, publish all again. Click publish. Okay, just wait for 2 or 3 more minutes, then we are done almost. Okay, meanwhile, come to this pipeline. I want to schedule this pipeline. You write add trigger, new slash edit trigger. This is the trigger. This you can scale. Yeah, schedule trigger. So I want to use a scheduling trigger. First thing, I want to change the time zone. This should be a India time zone. I want to run my pipeline at 8:33. 8:33. Okay, so every 50 minutes, yes, I want to run every 50 minutes. Do you want to specify end date? Yes, I want to specify end date. So on same date, I want to stop at 8:59 or something. Okay, click OK. So 1 or 2 times it will execute, not more than that. Okay, click OK. Click OK. Publisher 8:32 we schedule now. The time is already 8:32 8 seconds. So by the time it publish, our like it will become 8:32. Like time will be 8:32. When you go to monitor tab, you can able to monitor at 8:33. Our pipeline will start executing and it will generate a 115 single. So publishing is completed, right? We received some confirmation. Yeah, it is already 8:33. Let's refresh. Yes, our pipeline is running. Okay, so it is running now. Refresh this. Refresh this. So now just click on this to see how many partitions it is creating. Okay, you will check in each level. So just click on this particular transformation here. So when you read the source, it is still executing. That is see, these are the, it is writing to the sync. Okay, let's wait. Should not change this. Cancel this. So it is already reached. I think it is queued or something. Why it is taking this much time this time? I think it is going to take some 5 to 6 minutes. It is not going to use our existing data, like existing cluster. It may not use. I think when you trigger it, it is going to use the like it is going to create the new cluster. Sorry. Okay. So when you trigger, it is going to create the new cluster. That's why it is still running. So I think it is going to take 6 minutes. Okay. It will take some 6 minutes. It is not using the existing cluster which we have created. Okay, that is only for the debug. But when you just ran like this, what it is going to do, it is going to use the like it is going to create the new cluster. Okay, that's why it is taking more time. That's okay. Let's wait for 3 or 4 minutes. Any questions, friends? As of now, anybody have any questions? Any questions as of now? Yeah, we need to wait 3 or 4 more minutes. That's okay, but it is going to use the existing changes, whatever we made.
Malaya, I have a doubt here.
Yeah, tell me.
Suppose if we are going to, suppose if we have multiple files,
Okay.
when we are opting single partition, so whether it is going to load it into one big file for all the files, or it would be individual files for the whole data.
No, your voice, some echo is coming. I'm not able to understand your question.
Okay, can you hear me now?
One second, I think one more person. One second, let me mute him. Now you tell me.
Yeah, we were using a single partition for previously, right?
Yes, yes.
So suppose if I have multiple files in the input folder from the input, so how when we opt for the single partition, whether it is going to load all the files data into one file, or it is going to load into multiple files with all the data?
Single partition means it is going to load it into a single file. So you are going to combine all those things. Okay, those things are actually Spark concept. It's a transformation concept, right? So it is going to combine all those data into a single file. Okay, that is what will happen. But that is not recommended when you have a multiple files, and all the files data combining and writing into a single file is not recommended, because each file will be a different size. If you combine all the files, the output file size is going to be very big, right? So but if you have small data in input file, so if you want to combine that, you can do. So you have seen the previously message, right? It is recommending to use that single partition, or output a single file when you have a small data set. Okay, so you can do that when you have a multiple input files. You can write it to a single output file. That is possible. Okay, see, as I mentioned, it took approximately 6 minutes, but this is finished. Now come here, click refresh. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so go to output. You see here we have a single file, full data.csv. If you open this file, so this is important, friends, because in interview most of the people ask the same question. They are saying how you can avoid writing the extra files. I want to write only source data files, all the transaction files. I don't want to see. So you need to set it to a single partition. Okay, output one. So here also you see total scores.csv. Here if you open, you will have a total scores. You have a total scores. Okay, just do just one more minute, not more than that. It will not take much time because these are important. Let's go back to output. So I'll just come to data factory, come to author tab. I wanted to show you one more thing. Okay, go to data flows. See, these aggregations you can do in multiple ways. So once you have grouped, right, you just get the sum of players score, or you want to get the max scores for each player. Let's say that is also possible. You see, you just have to use the max function here, a max. So instead of sum, you need to use a max. That's all. Max function you can use. Click save and refresh. Now I don't want to publish and run again. It will take more time. Let's debug it. Okay, let's wait for 1 minute, not more than that. Chaitanya, your question is clear, so you can do that. Okay, I will show you in upcoming sessions if you want to see that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Let's go to output one, because output data we are not changing, so as it is it will be there. But when you go to output one, you are able to see this, right? If you click on this, you will have a max scores for each player. See, max score for Yuvraj is 100, max score for Sehwag is 60, 40, 80, 25. Okay, so likewise we'll have the like max you can get, min you can get. So you can just see in this particular group, so if you want to get max, you'll get this. If you want to get min, you'll get this. If you sum up, you'll get all this. If you count it, how many how many records we have in this group, you need to use, then you have to use a count function. Yeah, just you need to use the aggregate functions to get once a group by. Okay, so more things we are going to see in upcoming sessions. Do not worry. Okay, try to practice those things, friends. Okay, any questions? That's all for today. If no questions, that's all for today. Thank you.